In every tattoo, there lies a hidden message, a secret code, a mystery waiting to be unraveled by anyone who cares enough to read deeper into the ink. I'm Jordy Ramone, and if you'd let me, I'd like to guide you through a history of symbolism and tell you the story of a tattoo. A long time ago, on a night not unlike tonight, the Firefly Queen rested peacefully within her palace. The Palace of Fireflies was nestled safely inside a beautiful lotus that drifted lazily about the center of a pond. At night, the lotus would glow like a rose-colored lantern with the warm light of the Firefly Queen. The loveliness and charm of that lotus was truly a sight to behold. So much so that each night it would attract multitudes of moths, hoping to have an audience with the queen. Each and every moth hoping he would be chosen as her husband. So all night the moths would clamor at the gates of the Firefly Palace, begging for just one glimpse of the elusive Firefly Queen. But the queen was unimpressed with the moths. Moths, she mused, were not so enchanting and colorful as the butterflies of daylight hours, and surely the moon would not reflect its light off the dull and dusty surface of their wings. So each night the moths called upon the Firefly Queen, and each night they were ignored. Till one day the Firefly Queen had had enough. She sent a message to the moths, saying, "I will only court someone as bright and shining as myself. If you can go and fetch a flame and bring it back to me, then and only then will you have my heart and my hand." And so began the quest of fire. The quest of fire, our own irresistible attraction to the things that harm us most. This is probably the first thing you think of when confronted with the image of a moth. But that, of course, is not the only message the moth has to offer. Just like the butterfly, the moth also begins its journey as a caterpillar, and through its transformation within the chrysalis, it gains the freedom of flight. The symbolism of this rebirth is not lost on any of us, I'm certain. But the moth is in fact millions of years older than the butterfly, possibly even more evolved. It navigates by the light of the moon and the stars like the sailors of old, and has even gained extra auditory organs between the thorax and abdomen used to detect the echolocation signals of its main predator, the bat. But the butterfly seems to have all the happy endings, while our moth is left eternally damned to its quest of fire. The moth illustrated in this tattoo, however, is a very specific species. The Luna moth, I suppose, is a bit more elegant than your average moth. Maybe this more alluring moth might have reflected the moonlight that the Firefly Queen so keenly desired. But that's not the only thing different about the Luna moth. Like all moths, the Luna moth starts its life as a caterpillar with an insatiable appetite. Its sole purpose to store energy for its transformation and to store fat for its new life as a creature of the air. But unlike other moths, the Luna moth emerges from the cocoon without any desire to feed on tree sap or sweet nectars. After its transformation, the Luna moth will never eat again. During its time in the chrysalis, it never develops a stomach at all. Its mouth is, in fact, vestigial. It's always seemed such a shame to me that the poor Luna moth spends most of its lifetime laboring so tirelessly in order to grow its wings, when they have only such a brief chance to float in the moonlight. The moth, however, is not the only part of this tattoo with a tale to tell. The peach that our moth is perched on might just add a new layer to this narrative. Maybe this divine fruit can save our story from the fire. But why a peach? What could this new addition possibly teach us? To decode the secret message, we'll need to first investigate the mythos behind the peach. In Byzantine and Renaissance art, the peach was used to represent truth and honor. They can often be found lying around figures within these paintings, and in this way they are used to signify the quality of their character. If the peach was to be half-eaten or spoiled and rotten, this could symbolize someone who has tarnished their reputation with immoral behavior. In fact, throughout history, all around the world, the peach has been used to denote sensuality and the pleasures of the flesh. But in China and Japan, the peach has an altogether different meaning. Chinese mythology tells of the orchards of the goddess Mu, and at the center of that orchard grows a peach tree that blossoms only once every 3,000 years. One bite of its fruit, the pandao, is said to bring about immortality. When the peaches ripen, Mu is said to invite her fellow Taoist deities to a festival and offer them the fruit to ensure their everlasting life. Even the wood of the common peach tree is said to contain Mu's life force and is useful for warding off evil spirits. And it is because of this myth that the peach has cemented itself as a symbol of long life and longevity in the East. Now that we've discussed some of the possible allegories of moths and peaches, we can start to understand the cipher and begin to tell the story of the little Luna moth perched atop a peach. I suppose you could tell this tale a few different ways, but I like to think our friend the Luna moth has a lesson to teach us in the duality of life. You see, I think maybe we spend our entire lives striving to grow wings so we can soar gracefully up to the branches of Mu's tree. We struggle tirelessly to attain some form of immortality, be it fame or fortune or love. But in the end, immortality is never truly within reach. We just don't have the stomach for the pandao peach. But what we do have is the uniqueness and beauty of our own personal journey, the history of us, Not where we landed, but what we did to get there. What we sacrificed for what we loved. The story of he, she, or they, and how we became what we were. The flight of the Luna moth. Charles Bukowski supposedly said, "Find what you love and let it kill you." And maybe that's the real mantra within this image. After all, even if we never get to eat that peach, to have the ability to fly at all, just to float for a brief moment beneath the moonlight, that in itself is a thing of beauty. I'm Jordy Ramone, and this has been The Story of a Tattoo. I realize it's been a while since the first episode, and I apologize to any of you who were waiting. But I'm not always so tech savvy, and I was having some difficulties creating this video. But I appreciate your patience, and as always, I truly appreciate you for watching and listening. And if you'd like to hear more from me, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. And do yourself a favor. Have a nice night.